Welcome to Soul Healing for Empathic Entrepreneurs, a group where I help you bridge the gap between your spiritual practice and your business and just help empaths understand their operating system so that they can operate within themselves in a way that flows, in a way that there is energy, in a way that feels good, in a way that feels in alignment within their business so that the two don't feel separate. And today we're talking about empaths and burnout. And, I'm hearing so much in the collective right now, couple of things that are happening. Either we are experiencing burnout and we're sort of like on this pause and we're in this healing journey and we're in that phase, or we're in this very expansive phase where because energy and frequency right now on earth is vibrating in a much faster frequency, our body, our mind, and our heart and our soul have sort of like realigned with that energy, that frequency that is kind of shifting right now. And I wanted to talk about like the different phases of what burnout can look like so that we can understand which phase we're in and that we can utilize that information so that we don't fall into just burning out and overwhelm. And then like the worst time to make sort of decisions about your life and your business is in those moments where we feel our weakest, especially if we're trying to create something in the future. So, number one, what we have to understand when we're going through a burnout, when we are down on our knees, when our health is going to shit, when, business is not going well, or relationships are breaking apart, or things are breaking down, essentially, things are breaking down in your life, we have to understand that that's the stage of recalibration. It's a recalibration. It's an opportunity for us to now kind of revisit and relook old patterns that have been with us and that will continue to emerge 1,000 times over. Because here's the interesting thing about the recalibration phase and everything breaking down is that in our life, our wounding, if anybody in this field understands, like our wounding will continue to cycle through our life. And so it's a misconception to think, okay, I've done all this healing and, I'll never be triggered by my parents or something like that. These things will continue to happen and cycle in, but they will cycle in and they will become more and more dissolved as you move through them. So if we understand that in our healing journey, and you probably understand that sometimes it gets worse before it gets better. It's sort of like the way I think about it is if you're birthing a baby, like right before you're pushing that baby out, oh my gosh, do you want to give up? Do you want to just die almost? Like your mind kind of thinks like, I can't do this. Like, well, what is this? Like, and then right when baby comes out, if everything kind of goes well, then, there's this literally a moment of euphoria. So this moment, this first stage of recalibration, when everything is breaking down, when your health is going to shit, when your life is like, you don't know what you're doing anymore with yourself, when your relationships are not working anymore, it is that contraction period, that time where you're pushing a new baby out, right? You're into the world. And that all of that has to be kind of looked at before, it's sort of like it's life giving us a chance. Like, okay, before you have the baby, let's look at all your SHIT so that, when we go through this new phase, this new transition that we're moving through, we actually have the tools, because again, we're still going to be triggered 1,000 times over, but again, it's going to dissolve slowly and slowly every single time, right? So that's what I want to tell everybody especially people who are on this part where they're kind of just in the healing phase of the journey, in that phase where they just need to pause. They just need to pause and let the nervous system, let the body, let the mind, let the energy recalibrate to the new emerging, right? The new emerging. So you want to ask yourself in this recalibration, like, what is emerging right now? Not just in this phase where it's like, like, as you kind of look at your this pattern again, probably for the 100th time, or 1,000th time, you want to start to, again, not always go back into the pattern of what it was, but like, okay, what is it becoming? What is unbecoming in this situation? And what is it that I am becoming? And it's not that it's going to happen as you think about it, but it is the opportunity, because what can happen is we can sort of get stuck there, and we just kind of re-loop into the pattern over and over again. And maybe we feel like a victim. Maybe we feel like we're not worthy. Maybe we're not enough. Maybe we misdiagnose ourselves as not being spiritual enough or strong enough. And so, it's like when we're at a weak point, that's why I'm talking about, like, it's not necessarily the best time to make assessments about your life because, we all know, like, if ever you've had a cold or you've had the flu and somebody says, hey, how's your life going? You're not going to be like, oh, it's just wonderful and dandy. You're going to be like, I feel like shit. And, and your assessment of yourself and your life is not necessarily going to be a true diagnosis, especially if the physical body does not feel well. So it's a natural thing for the mind to go into a negative bias about what's happening, So we want to start to be observant. We want to start to, okay, so what are the patterns that how I collaborate with this healing process? How do I collaborate? Is it exactly the same way as I've always done? Do I go into victim mode? Do I go into the same patterns? Do I go into the same kind of research? Do I do the same things? Or how is it, right? How is it that I can kind of collaborate and be with and actually start to let more of the experience in? Because here's the thing about letting go. What we don't necessarily understand is the first stage to letting go is actually to let it in, right? So like when you're birthing that baby and that baby's contracting, the more you resist, the more sort of intense it will be. And I'm not saying it's not intense, okay? Because that's the thing. It's like in this recalibration stage, there's no denying that it's an intense moment and period in your life, right? But in that, I've birthed 2 babies. So speaking from the experience, in my personal experience, everyone has something different. It's the more I allowed the contractions to happen, the more the process of it moved through. But if your mind is resisting, if your body's resisting, it makes it very challenging. And I'm not saying you will not have resistance. You will, because it sucks, right? Like when you're in recalibration, when you're healing, when you're burnt out, it sucks. And you're like, what the F? Like, I don't want this. You know what I mean? Like you don't want it, right? But as I say all the time, like life is simultaneously painful and beautiful at the same time. Here you are, and I'm going to use that analogy. I'm going to come back to the analogy of birthing a baby. It's here you are, like probably having one of the most painful experiences of your life. And at the same time, this beautiful human being is being born, Like that's the ultimate duality here on earth. And, that's the challenge, is like to stay in the duality of painful and beautiful simultaneously, right? So what happens in the recalibration phase is we start to discover what we need, right? And so in this recalibration stage, so there's 3 stages: recalibration, contemplation, and implementation. In the sort of the contemplation phase, we start to want to understand, like, well, what do I need in order to create clarity? And you healers and you coaches, you already know. Here's the kind of that contrast between life is intense, life is hard, and yet you know what creates clarity. And here's the thing where we can drop off of our commitment to our devotional discipline, to our practice, to whatever you want to call it, your spiritual practice. Here's where we can drop off because we start to go into despair. But this is the time where, even in these moments where I'm in the most pain as I've ever been, I know that I can lean into my practice because that practice allows me to bring in and allow me to receive, right? Like another analogy, I'm talking about birth, but also death, right? When we are grieving, in those moments, those very painful moments, we have to let the grief in, and there's all of those different stages of that grief where it's like, okay, this is not happening, or we try to negotiate, or we get angry, or we deny, like all of these things start to happen. But as soon as you start to let the pain of your loss in and collaborate with that, that's when I can go into these deep dark caves, into pain, and I will still also be able to experience the beauty. Because here's the thing, like that again, like when we experience grief, loss, or death, we start to realize how precious and beautiful life is. There's that thing, the pain and beauty simultaneously. So in your contemplation, it's like by allowing the pain in, and I'm not saying wallowing in it and drowning in it. I'm just saying receiving it. And the way I work with my clients is we receive it through the body, because that's where you're going to feel it. You're going to feel it in the body. You can't logic your way out of pain. You just can't. Right? It's a felt experiential sense, and you all know this. If you literally have your heart broken, or you felt a sense of betrayal, like you feel that somewhere in your heart or in your gut, or so it's not a mental process. So when we are in the contemplation phase, that process of beginning to somatically feel the intensity of it all starts to bring us through the tunnel of transformation, and bring us to the point where we can also start to recognize how beautiful it is. So, I've lost a couple of people in the last 2 years, and and I'll just give you an example. It's like one of my friends, she passed. And I went to like my newfound passion, tango. If anybody knows me, this is like my thing right now. And usually when you're dancing in tango, it's a social dance, and you dance with people. Sometimes you're in your head about it. Sometimes you're wondering if you're doing a good job. Sometimes you're like, all this. You start to get so like rational about this beautiful dance. And that week when she passed and I went to tango, it's like there was this moment of just surrender. It's like, oh my gosh, life is so beautiful. And it's so beautiful to share this experience, and how fun it is, and how precious it is. And it's like, in some ways, it didn't matter, and it mattered all at the same time. It's like, it didn't matter if I was, good or not, or doing the steps right, or if the person liked me, So there was a release, because I gave myself the opportunity to move with the pain that I was feeling, the loss that I was feeling, and the memory and the beauty of that person that passed. Like her spirit is and was with me throughout especially throughout the week that she passed. It's like, I just felt her everywhere. So it infused my experience that could be so sometimes mental and cerebral and so logical and so critical and all of this crap that goes on in our minds sometimes, to just like, a surrender of just fucking like enjoy life. Because, when you're alive, you're alive. And when you're past, you're past. So while you're alive, we may as well be alive and experience being what it really means to be fully alive in our bodies, in our hearts, and not just in our minds. So this contemplation aspect gives us that opportunity. And if we don't take that opportunity, what happens is we just kind of regroove the pattern, regroove the victim, regroove the fear, regroove, and literally in our brains and in our bodies, we kind of reinforce. Because sometimes what we can do when we're going through something in our healing process, we either can tell the story to reinforce it, and it sort of almost anchors it in, like, I am sick, and I this, and I and this I am, without telling the story and understanding, well, what am I unbecoming from this experience, and what am I becoming? So it's this contemplation of what am I becoming out of all of this pain and this beauty, and can I develop the experience of deeply feeling pain and then deeply feeling beauty at the same time? Because it's too much to bear, right? If we're only in the pain of life and how chaotic it is and how crazy it is and all this, and in our own grief and our own pain and our own loss, it's just too much. It's too much. So we need to understand, like, life is beautiful. and we experience that through connection of ourselves, through connection of other people, and through connection of Mother Earth. And sometimes when we're in between, where we're sort of like, we see this all the time. We're like, hey, how's it going? Oh, it's good, but like the sun's not out. And it's like this kind of mediocre in between life where you're not really experiencing shitty and you're not really experiencing beauty. You're just sort of like, meh, And so it's like you're kind of numbing yourself to the experience by distracting yourself with how kind of mediocre life can be, which is in some ways a product of your own mind. When the truth of the matter is there's deep pain and deep grief, and there's just deep beauty, Like there's no mediocre, like, that's a mind thing. When you look at a tree, or when you experience your body, or when you connect with somebody else, like that's a freaking miracle. Do you know? It's like, so that's the first stage when you kind of contemplate this recalibration through the body, which is the first stage I work with my clients. And the second stage is processing all of the emotion, and the third stage is gaining mental clarity, and the fourth stage is mastering our energy. When you contemplate things through the body, like, you start to realize, I am a freaking miracle. Like, I'm literally right now, I don't even know, I'm talking to you through these trillions of cells that are coagulating to create this body that is able to think and feel and emote and move and do and experience. Like that's a freaking miracle. Like it's not even, and you're not even trying to, it's very different from trying to like look at life and how beautiful it is and this rainbow sunshine sugarcoating. No, it's the reality. Like, our body is a friggin' miracle. Like, and how many eons did it take for this body to incarnate into this planet, which is in the middle of infinity, with the universe, the unknown universe, that our small minds can't even grasp a grain of what is actually happening, in the stars, in the galaxy, in the universes of universes of universes. So this contemplation, sometimes the grief is like the chalice. It opens up, and sometimes it wakes us up to like, fuck, I am here on this earth for a limited amount of time. So, wow, if we understood, if it was our very last breath, our very last moment, we will certainly experience life in a completely different way. Just like when we're born, it's like we're born into something completely new, and you're like, whoa. And you see this with babies, they're just like, they're in awe of themselves, like when they notice that they have a hand and the hand is actually theirs. It's like when they're in awe of the light that they see, because at the beginning, babies see your auric field and your light, and they feel your energy, right? So these practices, of seeing aura and light and energy, like we're born with that, Babies don't come in with a mental construct, and they don't come in seeing clearly, and then saying, oh, that's a tree. No, they see it in molecules. They see it in light. They see it in energy. So sometimes when you see babies and they're really like looking at you and they're looking around you, they're seeing your energetic field and they're feeling it. So that's why babies are very intuitive. And again, like this intuition stuff that we talk about, that is like this big gift, like we're born that way. Right? So this contemplation period kind of gives way an opportunity to remember who we are at our core. And I'm not saying I know the exact answer to that, but like remembering ourselves at our core. And if if you've done the healing work, you've touched that before. It's like these moments of bliss, these moments of harmony, these moments of peace. You're like, oh yeah. And these moments where maybe you're connected to not just you and your little mind, or like this little, like the 5 square feet around you, like you're connected to it all. Like maybe when you walk the top of a mountain, or standing at the vast ocean, or looking into the vast sky, or looking into, some kind of miraculous borealis light show. It's like, so, or stars when there's no light. So then you start to live, right? And I think that's what the awakening of the recalibration gives us. It's like the contemplation starts to allow us to wake up, because very often we're literally sleeping, because we have so much conditioning about who we are and what we're supposed to do, that it's like we become so rigid in the way we act, in the way we feel, the way we think, and we're no longer experiencing life as we are in our true experience. Like if you see babies, they are experiencing life in their true experiential, in the moment nature. If they're sad, they're gonna cry. If they're angry, they're gonna cry. If they're hungry, they're gonna cry. If they, you know what I mean? And if they're happy, they're gonna laugh their ass, like it sounds a little bit weird to say that, laugh their asses off, but you know what I mean. You see babies full joy. And you see that with kids when they're playing, it's like they're in their full joy, right? So this contemplation part, if we give ourselves that opportunity to practice what we know brings clarity, which is in the body, which for me also is a mental practice of being able to clear your mind, and also it's an energy practice. So those are the 3 levels of access and doorways that I contact when we work together. Last stage is implementation. Now, once we're at the end of the recalibration and contemplation, we'll know, because when you're when you're in recalibration, like any kind of ideas, any kind of thoughts about the future are very overwhelming. Like we're just like, you're like, oh yeah, you have an idea, but your body's like, oh fuck, I can't even lift a finger. I don't even know what you're talking about. I just need to sleep, or I just need to gaze at this leaf or something like that. I just need to pet my cat. But recalibration, when that phase and the contemplation phase is over, and we've brought in more beauty, and we've learned how to become, right? Become one with life, right? Like this tree behind me, it's like when we start to tune into its beauty, we're not seeing it from a mental construct. We're actually merging with its energetic field and its makeup and its matter. Literally, I'm breathing in the oxygen from the and then carbon dioxide gets released. That's just one scientific thing, but it's like we're not disconnected. Okay, so when you start to move with life as it is, and as you become life itself, what happens is you start to, now the channel of thoughts and ideas and creation to create your life again start to open up. And you start to have a lot of downloads, especially empathic people, right? A lot of downloads of like what life can look like. What is it now that I'm becoming? What is the thing that I've dissolved and resolved, and it's like, okay, no longer want to be there, but I also want to be in this this place. And here's it is. It's like those things are usually unknown. They're not back into the comfortable, but they're not back into the past. There's something like, what if, and this curiosity of like, what if I did it this way? What if I did life this way? Right? What if I experienced life this way? What if I chose something different? Right? And so the implementation phase, we start to get all those downloads. And here's the thing, if we're not conscious of that, it's so easy to stay in the recalibration phase, because actually that's actually comfortable. Here's the interesting thing, like when we're suffering, and we've been suffering for a long time, especially like, those who have been like on a 1 year, 5 year healing journey, 2 year healing journey, which is what I'm hearing from my sisters and brothers, we get real comfortable there. And it's really easy to stay there, because it's actually kind of sometimes easier to stay there than to actually like, oh my gosh, okay, I have this vision of my life. Now I want to go do something about it. So implementation stage shifts us out of the pause that we needed. Okay, we needed it in the recalibration stage. We needed it in the contemplation stage, where we're going in and out of action. So recalibration, you're on full pause. Contemplation, you're in and out of action, where you're like, you drown and you come back up. You drown and you come back up, and you start to learn, right? Okay, the balance between pain and beauty, right? Where you're not just in the pain and then like, pain, beauty. And so in the implementation phase, once you've kind of learned how to recalibrate and understand how to gain clarity in the contemplation phase through the body, through the mind, through your energy systems, then what happens in the implementation stage is then you can start to take action. This is a tricky one, because especially when you're feeling everything and you're so used to feeling everything, and things easily can dip back into overwhelm, into burnout. Like in the 2 seconds. Action turns the wheels in the other way. So you were spinning kind of in a descent, just to take a pause and to kind of go into your healing cave. And then you're kind of spinning up and then down, or up and down, or side to side, side to side. And so this gives a momentum up so that you can take action. And here's the thing about taking action. What we have to learn, and I was just talking to one of my coaches yesterday, is we have to learn how to fail in our experiment of life. It's like we have to learn how to do the thing and do it ugly, do the thing and maybe not like it at first, do the thing. Like when tango is one of my biggest passions, and my first class, it really wasn't enjoyable, because my partner at the time, who we just get partnered up with random people, was not, in my opinion, wasn't very patient, right, with my beginnerness. And so that kind of like put a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth. But I knew that I loved it. And so here's the thing. I could have stayed in the pain and, oh my God, I don't know, you know, but I stayed in the beauty of it. It's like, I'm not going to let him like F up my love for this. And nor should you let anybody F up the love. And nobody really, here's the thing, nobody really Fs it up for you. Nobody ever takes your power, you give it to them. So if you're resentful with somebody, it's because you're giving the power. They didn't take it from you, you gave it to them. And so this is important. This is really important to understand, right? So implementation in that stream of consciousness, there's going to be a whole bunch of ideas. And so it's your chance to kind of like go out and it's like almost like a child who goes to a new school and like they don't really know who their tribe is and their people are and what they like maybe. And maybe they're in a new country and what kind of foods they like there. But they're going to try it and so they're going to realize what they like and what they dislike, right? So implementation is about discovering life again and discovering what you love and getting really clear what it is for you, because what it is for you is going to be different from somebody else. And somebody else's experience, especially if they're in recalibration or in contemplation, whether they know it or not, is their experience, right? So if they have kind of like a sourness about life, one, that means that there's a sourness in you. So whatever is in somebody else is because it's a reflection of you. This whole earth plane is a mirror, right? And so we don't have to shame ourselves or blame ourselves about that, but we have to understand like life is a mirror, If you don't smile at somebody, the likeliness of them smiling back at you is not going to happen. So for you to say, hey, they're kind of just mean, well, maybe that's what we call maybe that's just their resting bitch face, that they just kind of look like, meh, But if you smile, all of a sudden it's like, and I encourage you to test this out, Smile at people and you will see they will completely change. So what is it? Is it because they're cranky, or is it because we didn't, from the internal, offer our grace and our beauty in that moment? And I'm not saying go out and expect everyone to smile back at you, because that's also, some people might be in deep grief and pain and loss, and we don't know. We never know. We can never assume what somebody else is going through, right? But we can know in ourselves, okay, my actions, if it feels like I'm in love, if it feels like in joy, if it feels like in harmony, then you kind of know you're going in the right direction. So the implementation space is important to understand how to fill your way into the life that you want. Let me just see, I'm looking at my notes. And it's a chance for, if you've been on the healing journey or you understand some of this stuff, it's a chance for your ego to start to let go of the grip of the past and the grip of what the future has to be, right? Intuition, when we move forward, we don't know. We don't know the certainty of it. We just know it's true in this moment, and the only way you really know is if you do it, right? I just for some reason always knew I needed to dance tango. I don't know why, to be honest. I didn't do much research. I just knew. And now that I'm doing it, it's like, oh, okay. I get it. Okay, it's like everything that I love in one place. Okay, now I get it, right? So that's the sort of the risk we take when we're starting to experiment and explore our becoming life, of who we're becoming. And here's the thing, you're always becoming somebody else. When you were the 3-year-old, the 7-year-old, the 10-year-old, the 20-year-old, the 30-year-old, the 40-year-old, we're not the same person. Yes, your essence, the who you are is always going to be the same. We all have our own little kind of unique combination of who we are. But you're not going to be the same exact person, right? So implementation is this opportunity like, oh, okay, let me move from the creativity of life and create, right? And I don't know what that creation is exactly going to look like, but here's how you also know what to follow. When something keeps on kind of coming back, it's like I had this intuition to work with somebody, and I didn't like contact them the first time it came to me, but it somehow keeps on coming back. Work with this person, and so, I listen to that. You don't want to overthink it. You want to allow it to come to you. So when all of these ideas are streaming in, one really good technique is to write them down, because here's the thing about intuition. It's just these little thoughts, and then it's all surrounded by all of the other crap that you start thinking about, like, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, I'm not capable. All this stuff there's so much room for that, and there's not a lot of room for, like, go do this. Oh, go try that. Oh, and it's like these little pops of clarity. So write them down so that you can kind of allow yourself to experiment, right? And see, and intuitively see, like, what's what. And here's I guess the last note I'm going to say about all of this is, what's important out of all of these three phases is to understand, and to accept which phase you're at. So if you're in the healing phase, we kind of have to know, okay, that's a phase of pause. I just have to recalibrate. I just have to stay in my healing. You're not doing nothing, right? You are actively healing, which sometimes looks like nothing because you're resting. You're resting your nervous system. You're lying down and looking at the sky. You're letting yourself become resourced by life through your body and your mind and your energy. Okay, so it's not nothing where you're just randomly doing things that are not serving your healing process. And in the contemplation phase, that's where we have to, we're no longer just healing. We're starting to recognize, what am I unbecoming in this? What am I becoming? And what is this pain that I need to surrender into and let it be received? And what is the beauty, right? So that's the contemplation phase. And so we kind of have to accept those things. Otherwise, we just kind of keep on getting stuck in the recalibration phase. And then the implementation, where it's like, okay, time to take action, and action creates clarity. Simple as that. Your mind is never going to know for sure. It just won't, and it's not the time to go back into resentment and not take choices or not trust people because somebody hurt you in the past, because that's the risk we take. But if we understand how to see, if we've resolved that hurt that we've experienced with somebody, then we know if we experience again, we know what to do, right? Maybe that interaction with that person simply dissolves, and that's it, because that's how life is. And then the relationships that bring you joy and love, those grow and they expand, right? Because if we are, again, like I said, somewhere like meh in the middle, we just sort of like a little bit resentful, a little bit not towards that person, and you're never really fully experiencing life of just, okay, that relationship really stirred up my SHIT and all my wounds. Okay. And then, this relationship is like speaking to my soul. Yes. Right? So implementation is about learning how to live while you live while you're alive, and not just in your mind, not just in your identity, not just in your day-to-day mundane, but live, fully become the tree, fully become the ocean, fully become the sky, fully become your body, fully become the person the soul that is wanting to experience what it is experiencing here. That's the implementation stage, right? And here's the thing, you might cycle, right? You might kind of dip back into recalibration where you'll have smaller You'll need smaller pauses. It's not like maybe a whole year. It's just like, ooh, okay, I need a 30-minute nap here to just, you know. Oh, okay, I need a little pause to like contemplate. Okay, what am I becoming again? What is it again? Right? And okay, what is now unbecoming? Okay, that's done. What is the pain that I'm working with? And what is the beauty? Right? So you're cycling through the three, right? But just knowing and accepting which stage you're in is super important. Otherwise, it's very easy to just stay burnt out and overwhelmed. And which is here's the thing, there's nothing wrong with that. And that's the thing, like in the recalibration, what we have to understand, and if you're in a burnout, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to wake up again to the preciousness of life. So that's what I want to say for empaths out there, and I mean anybody in general. There's no one that doesn't experience burnout. Like I don't even believe that. Like it just happens in our life, right? Especially if we're kind of going down a path where we're misaligned with who we're becoming. And but there's no judgment. It's just that's just kind of what happens. It's just what happens. You know, I don't know what. It's just here on Earth, we sort of have to experience the polar opposite to experience the beauty of life. So, what I want to invite you is to consider if this is a path that you're on right now, if you're experiencing burnout, and you want to just take the first actions to move out of it, I encourage you to book a discovery call with me. It's free. And we are going to look at where is that stuckness, where has that wound be imprinted in your body, where has it been imprinted in your mind, and where has it been imprinted in your energy? Because that's the first step, that's the first stage to shifting out of the recalibration stage and moving into contemplation and then moving into implementation, right? You can't jump to implementation from recalibration. There has to be some kind of container. And here's the other thing too, when you're going through burnout, figure out and ask yourself, like, who's my team? Who's my support system? Who are my people, right? That you're not codependent on, but you're just reaching out of courage to know, okay, you know, I'm in this moment and I need to be held, right? And so we have to figure out who those people are, because we can't reach out to those who can't hold space for us, especially if they're in their own recalibration or they're not even interested in any of this stuff, right? Healing and all this business is like it's not even part of their journey here in this lifetime, right? So if you are interested in that, DM me and let me know, Jamie, I'm ready for a breakthrough yoga coaching call, and I will be there, and we'll start the deep work, right? And then I'll let you know what type of containers you can go in, so that, you know, because this kind of thing, it takes time. Like, you know, it takes time. So I have these 12-month containers that allow you to, you know, learn how to stay grounded and devotional and disciplined in your physical body, so that you can move through the pain, move through the emotions that start emerging and coming up, all of the past core wounds that are important to look at. Otherwise, they're just going to cycle and cycle in this lifetime, in the next lifetime. Like basically one idea that, you know, the ancients say is like, we're going to keep on coming back until we have resolved, right, our humanity and all of this, like all of these things that the attachments that we experience here. So we've probably been here for many lifetimes. Okay, so that's one idea. And then we also need to learn how to keep the mind clear so that we can hear the downloads. And then lastly, learn how to master our energy. Are we constantly giving away our power, or are we actually resourcing it? And are we putting our energy in the right places where our life's mission is, right? And life's mission, sometimes it sounds like this big thing, but sometimes your life mission is simply be of light and love and of service in whatever you're doing. Doesn't really matter what it is. So that's it. So DM me, let me know, Jamie, I'm ready for a breakthrough yoga coaching call. I want to hear your biggest takeaways. I can't see the comments right now. I'll look at them after, but thank you so much for your presence. And I will see you next week in Soul Healing for the Empathic Entrepreneur. Bye, guys. Thanks.